Well, for more, we can speak to Marilyn Hawes of the organisation Freedom from Abuse. Marilyn, it's so difficult to comprehend the severity of this, what those families have gone through, the harrowing details. Why, in your experience, do you think, and it is so difficult to answer this, just in terms of the motivation of someone like this, it is very unclear, isn't it, as to why anyone would inflict that kind of harm on poor, defenceless babies?
Fortunately, medical killers are very, very rare. The last one that did this, I believe, was Nurse Beverly Allett, and she was arrested, convicted in 1993. And referencing Danny, I agree, she'll get several life terms because Beverly Allett was convicted in 93 and she's still in Rampton prison now. So she's been there 20 years and there's no sign she'll be coming out. But I would say, what would I say about this woman? She was considered, like many people are, that they're like under the radar. How many times do you see people that are unremarkable, beige, average, they sort of stay under the radar, almost invisible. But underneath it and within it is this devil, this demon. So when you read, she was cool and composed, yet manipulative and devious. She looked like a sweet, charming angel, but within was this hideous monster. I would suggest she has probably got a whiff of narcissism about her and entitlement, and somehow within her a need to exercise power and control. Now, you mentioned, rightly, she had all these things that she'd taken off the baby, locks of hair, stuff like that. This is no different to your average child abuser, the paedophile, who actually does the same. They have, and they call them trophies. And they take little bits to God knows why, because they're twisted. They're absolutely twisted. But I think the trouble is here, yet again, we have an instance of senior management not being heard. This should have been stopped in 2015. Both Arian Powell, who was the first member of staff and manager of that unit, raised the concerns, but coupled with the concern, she also said that this nurse was exceptional and incredibly organized. So there was this dichotomy between her concern and then, but she's a lovely lady, And then there was Dr. Stephen Brewery, who was very concerned in October 2015. These senior managements, whether it be hospital, whether it be schools, whether it be BBC, whatever it is, have got to think the unthinkable. And this is what it is. People didn't want to think it. There is actually a film series made called The Nurse, and it was set up in New Zealand. Exactly the same thing. The nurse was considered so wonderful, so amazing. Nobody wanted to whistle blow. And this one poor rookie nurse was so suspicious this woman was guilty. So it does happen. And people have got to wake up to this. She, I'm sure, has got very complex mental health issues. What those are, who knows, and why they've been caused. Because the argument normally is that someone comes from a very harmful background, but she wasn't. She actually had a very lovely middle-class background. She was an only child. She was adored by her parents, feted upon. Maybe that's why. Maybe they bred this narcissist who was unremarkable but craved attention.
I think I'm very struck by what you said about being bland and being beige and the fact that she fitted in, she didn't stand out. I think we heard earlier on about lovely Lucy. She blended into the background. It couldn't possibly be her, could it?
No, that's right. And you'll see it time and time again. How many people, there she was in denial. Look at, change the subject, but look at it. Ian Huntley, there he was with the Soham children, right there in the front view of all the looking for these children. Where could they possibly be? These abusers have such a disturbed way of thinking that they are very capable of just denying everything they've done and showing this other side of them. So it is like a split personality. It really is. And they are very capable of, look at me, aren't I charming? And, but having to keep tokens and, trying to, how many times do I hear people who have been abused and the paedophile, absolutely denies it. Just, I couldn't possibly do that. And it's a mindset. People who are balanced, people who are mentally healthy cannot begin to understand. But the understanding must be that wherever you are, you have to think the unthinkable. And if we're thinking that hospitals should be safe spaces, don't even begin to get your head around that one, because they're not. There's been something like 35,000 sexual assaults in the last 3 years in hospitals. And you can walk around a hospital ad hoc, no one checks you, no one bothers, no one asks what you want. And they're not safe spaces, and they should be.
I mean,
and so it's not just about this hospital. A lot of hospitals are, I think, at risk of very poor safeguarding, where people are coming in to visit and all that sort of stuff.
I think I have to stress the vast majority of staff in NHS hospitals are there to do the work they're there to do, is to look after people. They have altruistic means, feelings towards their patients. Also, you mentioned Beverly Allitt. I'm also, in terms of Beverly Allitt, she was a serial killer. She murdered 4 children, attempted to murder 3 other children. Also, again, very similar parallels here, using insulin, also administering air bubbles into the body of one child as well. These... I mean, I do wonder, are these copycat killings?
Well, you wonder, don't you? And I thought that because I've been watching this, and I think it must be, I don't know, maybe Danny will know more, but to me, this has to be the longest court case ever. But I started, I followed this with great interest, and my husband was going, oh, she can't be, she's innocent. I said, she's not. She's not. I tell you now, she's not innocent. Don't go down that route. And he's been saying all the time, so he's absolutely gobsmacked today that she's been convicted. I'm not at all. But I started looking into medical child killers, and of course, up popped Beverly Allitt. And this is a few months ago now. And when I started reading it, I thought, oh, my word, she's done exactly the same. So maybe it is a copycat. It happens because she did exactly the same, Beverly Allitt. And very unremarkable, very under the radar. She wasn't there, all gleaming lights and look at me. No, but in a way, they still crave that sort of silent power and control, which of course Lucy Letby had. She it was and this one with the New Zealand series called The Nurse is the same. No one thinks. It's the same with the paedophile who was in the school. Everyone's always surprised. Oh, my goodness, I'd never have thought it. And it happens.
Marilyn.
It happens. People have got to wake up and smell the coffee, David, because I agree with you. Of course, what I feel so sorry for is the excellent NHS workers who are doing an excellent job, 36 hours a day. But every so often there's a rogue. And every so often there is a parent that comes in who's a rogue, or a visitor that comes in that's a rogue. And people have got to look outside the box and go with their instinct. And those doctors who raised this should have had the spine to have really kicked in the door and said, I am not accepting that you're closing this down. You need to take this further. And they should have been, because there's only 8-9 years ago. It's not like this was 1952. They should have had the spine, because there were 2 of them at least who felt concerned, and they should have pushed and said, we collectively are not accepting this.
Marilyn, I think it's very easy to say that. I think it's very difficult when you as a clinician raise concerns with management refuses to listen. So I feel very sorry indeed for the consultants at that hospital, those people who did raise the concerns. But, but also in retrospect, and using a retrospectoscope, it's very easy now to see the parallels with Beverly Allitt, indeed to see a pattern emerging. But at the time, of course, very difficult to do. Marilyn, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, Marilyn.
Desperately sad. Desperate.